All right, so Mike, I hear you're jet lagged.
I am a little jet lagged. Not, it's weird because we came west, but it's Africa is a world away. That's where I just was. I went with a friend and we explored quite a bit. We went to South Africa, Cape Town, Johannesburg. We did a little safari.
How long was the flight
Sabi
from
Sabi.
here? Like total
It almost
flowering.
took us 2 days in each direction. The flight time was 15, 16 hours from Atlanta. So we had a layover in Atlanta, 4-hour flight to get there. Then another couple hours to get down to Cape Town. I think we took a total of 9 plane rides, all said and told, 50, 60 hours of flying. So we were moving around quite a bit, but it was a great exploration trip for me for this part of Africa I haven't been in. And I think it's really a perfect location for us to work out of. But yeah, I'm a little tired because the time frame is a little off. So I'm finding myself tired at certain times. But I've recouped, and I think it was worth all of that for the flying.
Well, I've got just a few photos that we'd selected from the bunch that you brought back with you. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go through these and just tell me a little bit about what you see here.
Yeah, so there's not lots and lots of paved roads, and the paved roads are, we would consider in need of repair here, but a lot of dirt roads and such. This shows coming off one of the main highways or roadways, the entry to this entire parish. So there's a church, Catholic church there. There's 2 primary schools, boys and girls primary school, that are not boarding, that have large quantity of students. And then there's a girls and a boys secondary school. So we want to be involved in the girls' school as well, and with what the church is doing. It's a big thing. They're really educating. They also have kind of a second class later in the afternoon for local kids that are not boarding. But this would be considered one of the better schools, I believe, in Malawi. Again, they don't have the resources we have financially in Malawi. So from our standpoint, the school itself is not quite at the same level physically, but organizationally, I would say that they might be further ahead. I mean, the brothers there are very dedicated, and the teachers are dedicated and well educated, and the students are so well behaved and they're so motivated, and they're gonna hopefully all do well. I mean, it's easy in an environment like that to not be able to make it, but Jafali is a perfect example. I mean, we are a world away, and to grow up in that environment, to be able to go to this school and then get a scholarship to ASU and then get a great job, leave everybody you know behind, and it's not an easy trip back and forth, but be able to do that is a testimony how well this school is working, and how individuals can persevere as well.
Well, you mentioned the facility a little bit, so I see you've got another photo.
Yeah, this is the kitchen. Big area where they prep. These are I think watermelon leaves or
pumpkin leaves.
Pumpkin, could be pumpkin, and they chop that up, and that's some of the foods that they have there. They're growing some other cabbages and things. If you look, there's big pots. So one of the big staples over there is sema. They take corn and they will literally strip it off the cob, dry it out, and then they blend it into what we would call grits over here. But theirs is, I think, more like a stickier product, and that's their starch. I think that's served with almost every meal I've saw over there. So that, they add ideally a little protein into that, and some, whether it comes from the chickens or some meats, but they do have a fair amount of vegetable that they're adding in as well. Our goal is to just help them grow more and more vegetable. to supplement that diet, but to also help them with the chickens and the eggs.
So
The
we got
egg
some
photo is
photos.
perfect example here. A few months ago, they raised their own chickens and grew about 250 chickens. And then they ate those over a period of a couple of weeks. They supplemented into the cafeteria. They saved about 25% on the cost of what they would be if they were buying them on their own. Not a lot of involvement for a lot of people, but there was a group of volunteer students that helped with a guy who kind of watched the whole process 6 weeks later. So now what we want to do is accelerate that. In that same space, every 6 weeks we want 250 more. And then we want to take a space and do chickens for eggs. We know that it's cost effective, and we're trying to do the same thing with all the growing that we're doing. You know, instead of them buying in product, if they grow some of their own, A, they're growing a higher quality, but B, they're saving money. And that's the whole thing. Everything we're doing is all about being cost effective. That's what makes it sustainable. Right here, you're seeing Brother Dixon, I think, walking into a small garden that's attached to the brother's residence. And they are starting to do organic gardening in there as well. So I see some of our product that we had down below for composting is in there. And you can see they're growing bananas and mangoes and various different vegetables in there. It's really quite a pretty setting. And it's enhancing the foods they eat. And this is another example of what we're trying to do. It's not, and we don't always have to have there's no such thing as a conventional garden or a conventional farm, right? Every one is a little different. What we visualize is planting more trees and more shrubs that can be orchards and even grapes for vines, and kind of transforming the landscape into a foodscape, in addition to conventional growing or growing in planters or bushes and doing your 90-day crop cycles. We're putting in trees and plants that will go 30, 40 years and produce every year. And that's one of the things. What you're looking at here is our first compost pile.
That's the core of this program, right?
Oh, yeah.
The core of the Malawi project.
And it takes a while, and we're in no big rush. They composted that over probably 9 months, and they took a lot of the leaves and some of the plant material around there, and they chopped some of it up by hand. And then we found a dairy nearby where we purchased for a small amount some dairy product.
Is this the raw product? Or do you know?
That's one of the inputs, one of the feedstocks, but this is the finished product. And what's great is you can see we've run our product through the sieve, and most of the product runs through a 5/8 sieve. So we know the job has been done, right? And we're now in the process of building a screen.
Because if there's a big chunk of it, then something inside that chunk
Right.
maybe isn't ready.
Take the rocks out, or the stuff that's in the chunk might not have thoroughly composted, that kind of thing. So, but the bottom line is it helps spread when you're putting it on your plants. It also is more readily available as far as the nutrients and the biology once it's been thoroughly broken down or decomposed. So this is great stuff. They've got some big fields there, and we have some big ideas. We also have the chickens, and we can use chicken rakes and put them directly into some of these conventional rows that we're planning on growing in.
Say the chicken eggs or the chicken
No,
droppings?
just we can take the chickens and put them in a man-made, what we call a rake, and it's basically a cage. Put it right in the garden in between rows of what we're growing, and that helps with the fertility. We also can take some of the scat from the chickens and blend it right into our compost and compost that as well. So again, we're trying to do an entire ecological system with products that are nearby. we went up to Lake Malawi. I don't know if you have a picture of that on here or not, but we've worked kind of a deal out with the fishermen. They have some waste product when they're done cutting the heads off of the fish and gutting fish and that kind of thing. That waste product is great protein. It's got to be composted real fast, and there's a whole technique for that we can blend it into our compost pile, and we can actually feed it to the worms as well. So we're using, that's the whole idea of this model, is to use resources from where you are. We've sent back, we have permits with our lab, and we sent back some soil analysis here. They've got a couple of labs up there, but those labs don't do pathogen testing. So I want to check their work versus our work. So we've sent samples back. Those samples tell us if there's an amendment or two that's needed. This is kind of a low pH, so it's acidic. So the concept of maybe bringing in a little bit of lime and mixing it in, or whatever we come up with in our analysis, maybe there's an input or two that would be beneficial to blend in, like we do here when we're making concentrates or blended compost. And a little bit of this stuff goes a long way.
You're saying you already got the analysis back on this one, or
No,
still waiting on that?
We've sent the samples over finally, and everything's a process. It was a learning process how to get stuff back and forth, and getting permits, and getting, when we send supplies there, or they're sending stuff back. Now we find a good shipper. Same thing with, moving money back and forth. I mean, everything we've done has been a great learning curve. And we're in a great place now within 90 days to start our next phase, which is scaling up and making this model better, so that now that the brothers and the teachers can actually show grade school kids some of the stuff they're doing, and the girls' school can start getting involved. We're working with Michael, who runs the ag department, or one of the leaders in the ag department at the University of Malawi agriculture school. Great guy, and he's got some great garden stuff going on, and his knowledge can help Joshua and the members of our school here. So again, we're kind of developing that community over there as well.
What's that going to look like when they start growing? Because ideally, everything in that, it's going to be spread out to have some crops, right? Is that going to be on campus? They're going to have big.
Yeah, they have some big space out there. We found some equipment people out there, and some people who can come in, and we can grade and create drainage and that kind of thing. And
grade, is that like flattening?
Grading is moving of the dirt, flattening to make it usable, but also creating maybe some channels for taking excess water and that kind of thing. They have access to the river, and it's pretty typical down there for people to use the river. We want to bring a pump and pump water up. So right now, most of the gardening in Malawi is done in the monsoons when they get natural rainfall. So a fair amount of the year, the majority of the year, they're not really growing, despite the fact that they have perfect temperatures. It's 78 degrees almost year round, and the soil is pretty good to start with. We're just taking it up a notch and working organically instead of buying in fertilizers, which they just can't afford. And now we think that we can do some conventional gardening using some of that river water by grading, and grading is we're creating windrows and disking in some windrows for them to actually help with that growth. The planters we have, we already have some irrigation set up for those. And again, those are more high rotation crops. I think typically when they landscape, we can buy landscape trees and shrubs that are edible or medicinal, and put those in and just hand water that stuff, fertilize it using our blends, maybe some of our worm castings that they're working on.
How big is their worm community?
They've started that. We've got some mistakes. So we've got a vermicompost manual that we've written, and we're going to be sending it over there. we're going to try to do it two different ways. We're going to have them construct a bin where they can have different layers in the bin and be able to extract some of the castings and the byproduct and rotate and work in the bin. And that bin can be used to show, it can be mobile, and we can show it to the student, bring it right up to the classrooms or go to the grade schools or whatever. But we're going to start doing what we do here out there. We're going to get a slab of concrete, and we're going to get a little bit of shade, maybe some netting, and we're going to start doing our continuous flow right on the slab. And we know, because we've done it here with soil, seed, and water, we know that we started with what we call pit run, which is the worms and their living environment, their compost or their mud and their water. And we've filled out the first 2 rows out here. We have 350-foot long rows, got that population solid, and then we split it and did 4 rows, did it again and created 6 rows. So we know now we really have that ability to produce a large quantity. They have that same ability. What it needs is just some time and patience. You feed it some of this compost, you feed it some of the table scraps, and we continue to expand that worm population. So we have the ability to do large quantities right down near the river, or do some of that over in the girls' school. There's an orphanage in town that's, again, a really small space. I visualized like what we do here in Phoenix with some of our schools, just bringing our product, creating some planters and bringing some vertical gardens, maybe put some of the stuff in bags, and creating an urban farm or an urban school garden at that orphanage. So we're trying to do very similar things that we do here in Arizona, but now we couple that with some resource issues and some having to get a little more remedial with soil development and irrigation and that sort of thing. All things that we're very familiar with, and we know we can share these ideas. And the idea with the whole thing is to have them have their own food sovereignty and have them empower them to do their own thing, and I think that's really what our goal is. We come in and offer just a little bit of expertise and some help, knowing the mistakes we've made and short-circuiting some of those for them, and letting them take off with it. We're giving them the tools. That's about it, and some of the ideas. But I've already seen where we've come over and show these guys some of the things we're doing, and they take it and they adapt it to their location, and they're doing a better job with it than we could do. We brought a drone over there to the school, and nobody'd seen a drone over there. And I'm not the techie guy in the world. I can tell you that. I was trained in about 15 minutes how to use it. When I got there, I realized I forgot everything or didn't really understand. But we got the kids got involved, and they'd read the owner's manual, and they got it up in the air, and we've got video. Now they can kind of control their and monitor everything they're doing with that drone. They can do all kinds of other things with it. They can show their soccer matches, or what they call their football matches. There's a lot of different things that they can do, and it's just exciting. The tool's there, and within a half hour, the students were operating it better than I could ever operate it. And it's so that's the great thing, is to see that kind of thing take place.
Yeah, that sounds like a great moment with the drone, especially. Yeah, I'll definitely have to tag along on the next trip.
Yeah,
everybody's feeling a little jealous. We're like,
well, listen, you got a picture here of the girls' school, and girls' school in some ways it's smaller, not as much property, but they're further ahead. They're more organized, and their landscapes are nicer. Well, they have uniforms in both locations, but here I'd say they're further ahead in their agriculture practices, and we want to help them keep getting better, and we want to really use the boys' school as the main center, because they have more space and more area, more resources to really become kind of that hub, if you would, of the starting point. And the Maris brothers are in the adjacent countries in Mozambique and in Tanzania and Zambia, and they're a great segue for us. Once this has taken place, we can bring people from those other schools over and send some of our people here over there and start that same process. Zimbabwe, the same thing. And we just think, especially if we get help at the university level in each location, and this process, people are learning how to use these tools, and we think that this is a great way for people to really get back to sustainable, regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, this is amazing. I know everybody on the team has been thrilled to see these photos. I'm still making my way through them. Bless you. So the team has been so excited about this Africa trip and getting to see, what you were doing there on the ground. It's the same for all of us. We've done a lot of Zoom meetings and some phone calls, but you really got the full experience. So it's great to see that. And you mentioned something about maybe doing a central hub type community garden out there.
Uh-huh.
I saw your eyes light up a little bit there.
Yeah.
That could be like the new agave farms
UFE.
Far East.
Yeah. Or community of gardens on the African continent, this, starting place. Hey, look, people have been gardening and farming for years, so they already have some pretty good stuff. But what we're doing is just sharing some ideas and a little bit of resources. And if you really think about true composting, we've used these elements for thousands of years, all places on the planet, but things have gotten more sophisticated with technology. We do analysis now, and we can design recipes of better soil. We have irrigation and fluid dynamics that are different. These last 100+ years, you've got fossil fuel vehicles and tractors and equipment, and with composting and with vermicomposting specifically, we've learned about the benefits of biology and chemistry, and those really, started maybe in the 1930s. So, relatively recent. It's taking a new, sophisticated approach to an old thing. An old thing is, humans growing food for themselves. So.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. Especially recently, you were talking about how there's been all this urbanization and all this modernization, and all along that was meant to help make life better, easier, and safer for people.
Right.
But it's like it's kind of almost gone so far that now we need to reverse that a little bit with going back to these traditional methods. And now this is what we're doing to live better and be healthier.
And I'm very optimistic. I think the science is there, and I think the applied science, this is what this is applied science. We have communication tools thanks to the internet and to cell phones and airplanes, so we can, meet and talk to each other. And I believe if you think that science maybe caused some of our problems, it's really always humans that cause their own problems. But I'm of the belief that science is the solution, and humans are a very resilient species. We're only one organism, and who knows how many million are out there. There's more than 1 million known organisms, and I think that we're prescient beings, and that we have the ability to adapt. And if we need solutions, that those solutions are definitely something we can create. Unfortunately, the way humans are is that we wait for crisis sometimes, and then things get politicized. There's a power grab or whatever, and unfortunately, masses of our society gets left behind. And I think, what we're talking about here is a small part of that solution. We have a solution for global warming. We're trying to be efficient with our resources, and it's all the whole concept of regenerative agriculture, which is kind of a new thing, is we're spreading that gospel.
Nice. Well, I think that's a great place to end. But as far as our audience is concerned, we've got a lot of Africa photos and stories that we're going to be telling and sharing. So keep an eye on our social media for that, as well as I know everybody's dying to find out how they can get involved with the Africa Project. So stay tuned. You're going to hear a lot more about Africa. And Mike, thanks so much for chatting with us today and letting us know about all that cool stuff you did in Malawi. Appreciate it.
Thanks to you and Rodolfo for putting this thing on and helping us, attract more people. We're inclusive.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everyone.